friends, good evening, wherever you're at. If excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cold, and I'm trying to get through here. I know I sound even more annoying than usual, but we'll get through this here. I'll try to make this a short one. So, Palantir, Big Bear, okay? Even though we didn't have massive run-up in these stocks here last week, I still think they held their ground really well. And I want to talk about what could be coming here, and I think they're in a great position to really do some, chipping away at some bigger numbers here. So, first things first, Palantir held this, mid $20 zone all week. So that was a great example of what's to come here, that Palantir is holding even with the market being in this like up and down situation. Last week we had the bond market not do well, yields going up, and the market was there was a lot of uncertainty, tariffs situation kicking back in here, happening, not happening, it is happening, and then on top of that, we saw Palantir CEO Alex Karp sold more than 50 million in stock. Now, people get upset when CEOs do this. I really don't think this is any cause for concern. Obviously, Alex has a ton of shares of Palantir, and the stock is at an all-time high, so he knows this is a good time to sell out. Now, he's done this before in the past. This isn't new. When the stock was around, I don't know, $60-$70, somewhere around there. Alex sold a lot more shares too. Now, there's a good handful of people in Palantir right now. A lot of the big execs, they've been selling shares, but this is just because the stock is all-time high. I don't think this is anything more than like you really need to worry about. They're like, oh my god, they know something we don't know. Bad. It's not that at all. They're selling some shares. They're getting some summer money together, and things are looking good. So, I think Palantir here, and I got Dan Ives up here because Dan Ives is still in this very much. He's putting it all on the line, saying, I do believe that Palantir is still headed for $1 trillion market cap. And that, we could be talking about stock splits in the future. We could be talking about, obviously, like I said, $1 trillion market cap. We could talk about more deals. There's more certainty than there is uncertainty right now with Palantir, and I think that's what keeps a lot of investors grounded with Palantir, and that's our golden light right now that we stay focused on, that there's a lot more good than really there is bad, because right now we're not really getting a lot of bad stuff, we're just getting a lot of good stuff with Palantir. So obviously, one of the main things too is that there's a lot of new talk about defense spending, contracts, all that kind of stuff, the Golden Dome, and I would not be surprised to see Palantir really start to get some of these contracts. And obviously, there's going to be more attached to this Golden Dome, element than just the Golden Dome. It's going to have many different sequences of tech, industrial, all kinds of stuff attached to it, that the companies are going to be getting government contracts, defense contracts for that. So I would not be surprised to see Palantir really step in there and capture one of these, probably more than likely. So Palantir ended the week here better than I think a lot of us expected. It survived going into the teens, so that was a really good indication that even last week we didn't even hit the teens. 120 was the lowest we hit, and we stayed in the 120s all week, from 125 and some change to 120. I mean, great week to, flip Palantir if you were flipping the stock. But I still think there's a lot of meat left on the bone here with Palantir 100%. And, even at these prices, we're probably in profit range here when we talk about the futures of what's coming here with Palantir. We're talking about 2 months from now. What could that look like? It could be a lot more than what we're looking at right now. We could be in 140. We could be, 130s easily. We've already touched 130, so we know people are willing to pay that. 140s, that would not be shocking. I think the shocking number and the roadblock, number that comes up with Palantir here is if we get to 150 to 160, and I that's a lot. I get it, 100%. That's a lot of money, completely even more of a price, for this stock. But it's the situation of people don't want to miss out. When Palantir starts running good again, people are just going to buy back in because they're going to be like, okay, well, it's at 25 right now, 125. Well, it's probably going to run to 128. I'll make a profit on it. I'll sell out. Well, and then people are buying a 128 and they're going, well, it's at 128. It's probably going to go back to 133. I'll sell out at 133. And then, this is how things keep getting more, just ridiculous with the price range of Palantir. So it's got all the things you want wrapped up in it. It's got the hype, it's got the FOMO, it's got the sharks at the table just tearing things apart here. They've got the deals, they've got the money, they're inside the White House. I mean, they are rubbing shoulders with the people writing the checks at this point. So there's a lot of good things going on with Palantir. Whether you're for or against that, I don't know, but I would have a harder time betting against Palantir if you're putting puts on it. we may never be under $100 again. That's the real interesting part here with Palantir. As long as it keeps holding these high numbers here and keeps, chipping away at bigger numbers, we're going to see Palantir reach 130 again. We're going to see it reach 140. But like I was saying, I think 150, 160 is really where I go like, okay, I think that might be where the brakes are pumped quite a bit, because getting closer to Q2 of this year, I think that's more believable, because we already know Q2 is probably going to be banging. It's probably going to be great because of the deals that have been happening. The NATO deal that happened here a while back and it's not even on these quarterlies, Q1 so far. Be positive, be excited, be patient. There's a lot more to come here with Palantir. They're still wrapping. They just got a deal like a week or so ago. They just got another deal. And two, they're in the midst of working out another deal right now with Elon Musk and some other tech companies. So, and like I said, too, they're going to be attached to this golden dome situation that, America, now Canada is wanting it too. So this is a huge infrastructure bill that is going to last a long, long time. And just going right into Big Bear, Big Bear is a lot of somewhat similar conversation there, talking about the golden dome. Will Big Bear get any of the scraps from that deal? I think it's very good that they could. It's a very good chance that they could, because what do we know? We know Big Bear is already working for the United States government. They've got multiple contracts with them now at this point, partnerships. So, the fact that Big Bear could, get a nice juicy contract. I mean, even if Big Bear just received like a $300 million, $400 million contract, spread out over even 2.5 years, 3 at the most, that would dramatically change everything with Big Bear. We would instantly, the rest of this year would be scorched. It would be great. It would be, check mark. We would hit all the quarterlies. So, that in itself would drive up Big Bear into a bigger position here, a bigger price range. Now, Big Bear here I thought it had a really good week. I mean, when the market was having a struggle bus week this week, a lot of stocks were just on the struggle bus. Big Bear held its ground. It did really good. So I don't really know why people would be upset with Big Bear. I get people are impatient and they want Big Bear to go back to $10 and, all that stuff. But if you look even on the monthly chart here, we're doing good. Just a month ago, this time last month, we were under $3. Now we're right below $4. Okay, so that's a huge movement. That's a huge profit gap right there for people that were buying in just then. I mean, even just May 7th, if you were buying in at $3, you're up quite a bit. And I know a lot of you have, because you've been saying that. So Big Bear is in this position where it's got a lot enthusiasm around it, a lot of hype. People are wanting to they're rooting for it. I think there's more people rooting for Big Bear than there is against it. And listen, I know there's negatives with Big Bear, 100%. They got debt, they need more deals, they need money. Stat. This lawsuit situation is wrapping up here in the next 2 weeks, so that should be done. The dust should settle. We should not hear about it again. And I would not be surprised if we start to hear more from Kevin, their new CEO. He hasn't been talking lately, and I don't know if that's because he just doesn't want to get mixed in with what's going on right now publicly with that lawsuit situation. But I'm hoping that Kevin, their new CEO, kind of comes out and talks more, gives like a video, interview about what Big Bear's doing, where they're going, what they look forward to. And he's somewhat been talking lately, but it's just I guess we've been so spoiled with Alex Karp. That's the CEO that we want for every company, but we're just not going to get that for every company. So, friends, I'm very convinced that Big Bear is going to follow suit into some higher numbers here. I think Big Bear is probably headed for $4.50 to $5 at least here. Sooner than we think. It's wanting to run. Investors are pushing it. It's got news. It's got hype. And, we're getting around that time zone where Big Bear could potentially get another deal. It's pretty much been a month almost, or it's been a month, I think, at this point, since they got that last Navy partnership deal. So Big Bear, I mean, they've been going off of like 45 to 55 days of getting new contracts, like since November at this point. So we could see another deal rise up here. Like I said, all these big budget government defense contract deals that are getting worked out right now that are going to start happening more here. We're going to hear about more. I would not be surprised to see, the companies that are already working with the government get contracts for the new stuff that's coming up here. I don't think that's crazy as it may sound. It makes a lot of sense to me, more than not. So friends, I know I sound completely annoying. My voice is just going completely. I'm hoping I'm better tomorrow so you don't have to listen to me like this. But friends, take care of yourself. I wish everyone the best of luck. Memorial Day is coming up, and oh my God, what are we going to do when the markets close? This is going to suck. Friends, take care of yourself. Bye, everyone.